In this podcast, we are going to talk about ignoring certain behaviors. We're going to discuss this as one of the many parenting tools that you may want to consider. Ignoring bad behavior can be a helpful strategy because more attention to a child's negative actions can actually reinforce the very behaviors you're trying to change. So for example, if your child is whining a lot and you give in to their whining about wanting to watch a show or wanting a second piece of candy or wanting to play with something like your cell phone, and they whine and whine and whine, and you give in to them, you have now reinforced the whining behavior. And many studies have shown this is true of animals, rat studies, for example, and people, that when they sometimes get what they ask for, they whine, they're more likely to get that the next time. And they're more motivated to continue that whining behavior because it at least works sometimes. It's called intermittent reinforcement. It is one of the most powerful ways of changing behavior and oftentimes creating bad behavior, especially when it comes to things like whining. Well, what are the other kinds of behavior we're talking about? Any other kinds of behavior that can be attention-seeking, like whining, tantrums, screaming, arguing. Generally, we can consider using ignoring certain behaviors as a strategy for behaviors that aren't harmful or dangerous to the child or others. And when we ignore them, we are more likely to be successful at eliminating that behavior. But we have to do it in a thoughtful way. First, I think it's really important to let the child know what you're doing, because if you ignore them without telling them, they might perceive that as rejection, and that can be destructive. I think it's okay to say, when you talk to me that way, I can't hear you. Or when you yell at me so loud, I can't respond. Or when you're whining like that, I'm not going to respond. In fact, it might be evidence that you're tired and you may need to go to quiet yourself down instead of whining. And so having an explanation for your child so they know what you're doing, I think could be really helpful. But once you say it, you have to stick to it. When ignoring behavior, parents need to avoid eye contact and discussion, maintain a neutral expression, and be separate, but remain nearby. If you're watching your child while they're doing the behavior that you're trying to ignore, you're really not ignoring them because they're really on the stage. They're getting all the attention and you're watching them. It's also important to stay really calm. Neutralize your own reactions. The calmer you can be, the better it will be for you, and the sooner your child will realize that they're not getting the same response they used to get. Ignoring behavior shows children that parents can maintain their own self-control and stay calm when they need. When your child does not engage in the challenging, attention-getting behaviors that you've been ignoring, please remember to give them positive attention and praise them for handling the situation in a better way. So you're essentially showing your child what you would like them to see or do, how you would like them to behave. You're kind of helping to reinforce things to do instead of reinforcing what not to do. When parents are not upset by bad behavior, children learn that it does not work to behave that way. Ignore the bad behavior until it stops. Stay calm. If the ignoring escalates to aggression, you may need to intervene to respond with other strategies to keep your child or others safe. This is only one tool that can be helpful in certain situations, and it's especially helpful for younger children, school-age children or younger children. It's been my experience that ignoring works when we understand the reason the child is engaging in the behavior. When we know this, we can maybe help the child find other ways to express themselves and to make sure the child is getting positive attention at other times. Consider what specific behaviors your child is showing that are really troubling you. If it's whining, some other noise making, having tantrums, screaming, arguing, then using an ignoring strategy may be worth considering. You may have to do this for a few weeks or months before you see this behavior reduce. And it helps to give the child additional tools for managing the situation that may be causing the behavior. Please consider going back to track the frequency and severity of the behavior that you're working on to see what function the behavior is serving and if your intervention of ignoring that behavior is helping. We are looking for progress here, not perfection. If you're keeping track of the behaviors you're trying to reduce in your child, you may begin to notice small changes in a matter of weeks. Stick with your plan. Sometimes progress is not a straight line. If you discover an increase in the behavior, check to see if it's related to other changes going on in the family. Many parents discover that their child is really sensitive to changes in the amount of quality time with their parents. Life happens, and we sometimes are unable to keep a steady pace. Just try to get back on track. Remember, you are ignoring the behavior. You are not ignoring the child. I like to think of some of the annoying behaviors as your child's best efforts given their limited skills at trying to engage you. It's like an invitation to interact. You, as a parent, can decide how you want to respond. Thank you for tuning in and considering this parenting topic. I hope that this information added to your growing toolbox for parenting your child or children. Please consider exploring other topics in this series. Remember, no one parenting tool can do everything. We need many tools to become the best parents for our children. Your children's future depends on you and the time and effort you invest in them today.